So, karon mag-discuss ko about alkanes. And ang alkanes mo na siyang pinaka-simple na group of organic compounds sa tanan organic compounds. Si alkanes na siya general formula na CnH2n plus 2. Muna siya ang formula para makuha nimo ang unsay molecular formula sa usa ka alkane. For example, if you have CH3 and CH3, which is ethane. Kung gusto niyo pa ng molecular formula, gamiton ganin mo siya nga equation. So N is the number of carbon atoms. So in solving this, i-substitute ka nimo ang number of carbon atoms sa given na structure. So C2H2 times 2 plus 2. Okay, so this is C2, 2 times 2, 4 plus 2, and this gives you C2H6. So diba, 2 ka buok carbon and 6 ka buok hydrogen. So ang alkanes, classify na sila as saturated. Saturated meaning to say na ang carbon atoms kay saturated siya with hydrogens. And when we speak of saturated, meaning there is no carbon-carbon double bond like this. Wala siya CC double bond. And of course, kung wala CC double bond, wala siya pi bonds. Ang bonds na present sa alkanes are all sigma bonds. Sigma bonds sa tanan ang present kani CH. sp3 bonds are sigma bonds. Okay. And when we name alkanes, ang suffix jud niya per me is A and E. This one, A and E. So from the word itself, alkane, kung makabasa mo word nga, makabasa mo organic compound nga, ang iyang suffix kay ane, alkane na siya. Like for example, this is propane. This one is butane. So, kaniyan to, sa unang panahon, mga early 19th century pa, kung nagali ma-discover ng mga chemical compounds, wala siya kanang systematic rules of naming, walay convention. So, sa unang panahon, ginapangalan ra ang chemical based sa kung asa siya na-discover or ang mga chemists ang ilalang gipang nagbuot-buot ra sila pangalan, murag trivial names para sa isa ka chemical compound. Like for example, formic acid. Gikan ni siya sa Latin word nga formica. And ang formica, meaning ants or lamigas o sa Bisaya pa. Ang formica, that's the Latin word for ants. And ay kaduha kaning urea, which is very familiar sa atoa, especially kung nata sa agricultural sector, kay mostly ani ginahimo man siyang fertilizer. Ang kaning urea, gipanganlan ni siya urea kay gikan siya sa urine. That's why urea. And ang ikatulo, kaning morphine, this is a painkiller. Just like ibuprofen, paracetamol, man siyang morphine. And kani siya nga compound, gipangalan ni siya sa usa ka Greek god nga ginatawag og Morpheus. Morpheus is a Greek god and he is a Greek god of dreams. That's why pangalan na lang nila morphine. And ang ikapat, kaning barbituric acid, gikan ang pangalan ng barbituric acid gikan ni siya sa pangalan sa babae, which is Barbara. Ang actually nagpangalan ni is si Adolf von Bayer, and he named this compound as barbituric acid in honor of a woman named Barbara. And so in 1892, there were a group of chemists. There are 32 of them. 32 sila kabuok na nag-discuss sila, nag-unite sila, and nag-form sila usa ka organization, and ilang gi-put up ang ginatawag na Geneva Rules. Why Geneva Rules? Because kani siya nga meeting or organization or discussion, nahitabo siya sa Geneva, Switzerland. That's why it's called Geneva Rules. And from time to time, kani nga mga set of rules, gina-revise and revise and revise all over again siya. Hangtod sa nagkadaghanag mga chemists nga nag-join ani nga grupo, and it turned out to be na ang Geneva Rules ma-transform siya into what we call IUPAC rules. So kaning IUPAC stands for International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry. Kaning IUPAC, isa na siya ka international organization nga sila ang ga-assign or convention unsaon pag-name sa tanan chemical compound sa tibuok kalibutan aron ma-harmonize ang tanan countries when it comes to identifying or mag-ID sa usa ka chemical. So sila ang gamugna og mga rules, and ang mga names sa chemical compound nga derive sa IUPAC rules ginatawag siya o systematic names. So, kung mag-name tag alkanes, naay mga preliminaries na kailangan sundon. First one, ang pinaka-importante dyan is the parent chain. Ang parent chain, muna siya ang the longest chain na posible nimo makita sa usa ka structure sa compound. Okay? So, just like for example, the structure, ang parent chain niya is this. This is the parent chain. It is the longest chain nga posible nimo ma-identify sa usa ka structure. So, how many carbon atoms? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 carbon atoms. So, inala siya ka-simple. And by the way, kaning mga edges or kinks, ang ginapasabot na niya is carbon atoms, and understandable na siya nga na siya yung mga hydrogen around that carbon atom. Inala siya ka-simple. Select the parent chain. And then, it is very important na makabalot ta sa ginatawag og homologous series. Muna siya ang set of alkanes na mag-differ lang sila sa number of carbon atoms. Actually, there are 100 of them. And ang kaning mga numbers diri mo ni siya ang number of carbon atoms na present ana nga compound. And kaning F mo ni siya ang parent name. What I mean, a parent term. A term sa parent. Okay. So, if you have isa ka carbon atom, you always name it as meth. Ang second, kung naidwa ka carbon atom, F. Kung tulo ka carbon, prop, and so on and so forth. Kung 11 na gani, ang prefix is undec. Kung 12, dodec. 13, tridec. Then tetradec, pentadec. Then kung 16, hexadec. 17, heptadec. 18, octadec. 19, nonadec. And 20, acos. Okay? And 30, triacont. 40, tetracont. 50, pentacont. Hangtod maabot sa 100 nga hect. So when you want to name the alkane, you just add the suffix nga A and E. This is A and E, A and E, A and E, and so on and so forth. So that this becomes methane, ethane, propane, butane. Ngayon ka butane, it contains 4 carbon atoms. Okay, sabot. So hexane, nasa 6 carbon atoms. Commonly common nga makita ninyo sa mga organic reactions kay nara gid ni sa kaning first 10 kaning methane to decane. Kung gusto niyo na memorize, there is a mnemonics and a very effective mnemonics. Pwede ninyo magamit para dali lang ninyo ma-memorize yung first 10 alkanes. So this is Mary eats peanut butter pizza. Her husband Oscar never does. So Mary eats peanut butter pizza. Her husband Oscar never does. So that's the mnemonics to effectively memorize this first 10 alkanes. Okay. So we are now done with identifying which sound pag-identify sa parent chain. And now, what if you have 2 compounds and after you identify the parent chain or the longest chain, kay same sila of length, meaning to say same sila of number of carbon atoms, like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 ang iyang carbon atoms. Sa pikas, 7 ang carbon atoms as well. So, pero nag-differ sila sa number of substituents. Kaning sa left side na itulo ka substituent. Kani, siya, and kini. Tulo. Whereas kaning sa right, duha ra ka bagyan substituent. So, sa mo pag-identify kung saan tama nga name. When you come across this kind of situation na equal ang length sa chain, well, you should pick kung unsa tong mas daghan og substituent. So, ang mas correct ani is this. Kung asa to ang mas daghan og substituent, mauto ang correct nga name. Okay. So, nato ginatawag na cyclic alkanes. And when we speak of cyclic alkanes, this is commonly referred to as cycloalkanes. When you name a cycloalkane, you just have to add cyclo as a prefix, then followed by the alkane. So, for example, this one. This contains 3 carbon atoms based on the homologous series. Ang carbon atoms na naay, kung naay 3 carbon atoms, the parent term is prop. So this will be propane, right? But since this is a cyclic compound, we add the word cyclo, no, not the word, we add the prefix cyclo and followed by the propane, so that this becomes cyclopropane. And kani, upat ka carbon atoms, this becomes cyclobutane. The cycloalkane, when you want to write the molecular formula of a cycloalkane, just use this equation, CnH2n. So for example, this is, kabalo naman tangan, cyclopropane na siya the H, then here H, because carbon always has a valency of 4 to achieve its octet, okay, to be in sync with the octet or satisfy the octet. So, and we all know that the edges, the vertices are carbon atoms. So by using the CnH2n formula, how many carbon atoms? There are 2, and how many? Okay, H2 times 2, since N is the number of carbon atoms. So C2, C2H2N plus 2. Sorry, namali ko. This has the same equation with the acyclic. Okay, so cycloalkane CnH2n. No. Yes, tama. CnH2n, sorry. So this would become, N is the number of carbon atoms. So how many carbons? Tulo. H2 times 3. So this becomes C3H6. So yes, how many carbon atoms? 3, and there are 6 hydrogens. Just use this general formula. The same with cyclobutane, you have C4, okay, 4 carbon atoms, so H2N plus 4, this becomes C4H8. So the next thing is that we need to be familiar with substituents. And when you say substituents, these are branches na naka-attach to sa parent chain. Attached or connected to the parent chain. So for example, if you have this certain compound, so if we want to first we need to identify the parent chain. That's the first thing that we need to do. So this should be the parent chain. Ang kaning mga substituents, one is silang mga groups of na connected or naka-attach there is a parent chain. So in this case, you have 3 substituents. And speaking of substituents on an substituents na composed lang of carbon and hydrogen are called alkyl groups. Quantia-saturated alkyl groups like this. And when you say alkyl groups, these are alkyl is derived from the term alkane. So when you have alkyl groups, ang iyahang suffix would be YL. YL. So that going back to this meth, for example, decane, if we want to make this a substituent, we just add il at the end. So this becomes this, and meth becomes methyl. Just add YL. So in this case, ang kaning substituent, since dual man carbon atoms, so di ba supposedly ethane, the dual man Mary eats, so dual carbon atom. You just replace A and E with YL so that this becomes ethyl group. This is also an ethyl group, and this one is 1 carbon atom, therefore methyl group. So these are the substituents. Okay. So first 10, the first 10 alkanes, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is meth. When kung ma-substituent na ganyan siya, just add YL. Methyl, ethyl, propyl, butyl, pentyl, hexyl, heptyl, octyl, nonyl, decyl. Okay. That's the first 10 substituents that are derived from the first 10 alkanes. So we kabalo na taon sa cycloalkanes and kabalo na po taon sa substituents. What if the case would be like this? you have the cyclic alkane, and you have the substituent. So, kung kay substituent and you have a cycloalkane, always yun na ang parent chain is the cycloalkane. Okay? So, when you name this should be the parent chain, or the parent, not the chain. So that since this cyclic compound contains 6 carbon atoms, therefore Mary eats peanut butter, pizza, her. So her, so meaning 6 carbon atoms, and that's hex. So add the word cyclo, this becomes cyclohexane. And we have a substituent which contains 2 carbon atoms. And in this case, this is ethyl. Okay, duha matawo carbon atoms. Mary eats. Okay, just don't forget about the mnemonics. And we add the ethyl here. Ethyl. Actually, this is a small c, not a big c. Cyclohexane. Kung nanigali, kung nakay isa ka ring, nga na isa lang ka substituent, do not use one. Do not write any number before the name. No, that's incorrect. Like for example, this should be methyl cyclobutane and not 1-methyl cyclobutane. That's incorrect. Okay. What if ayan magbutang og numbers so before kung naanay duha or more na substituent, but kung isa lang, do not write 1. So what if ang scenario or ang situation is like this? Okay. There is a cycloalkane. This one is propane. Cyclopropane siya kay tulo ka carbon atoms, 1, 2, 3. But look at the substituents. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 carbons. But the cyclopropane only has 3 carbons. Kung inanigalan case, ang kung mas gamay galing number of carbon atoms sa cycloalkane compared sa substituent, ang cycloalkane may mahimong substituent. So the name of this compound would be 1-cyclopropyl. Since na siya 5 carbon atoms, this is pentane. Okay. Why cyclopropyl? Because this is derived from cyclopropane. And since substituent naman siya, may mo ng YL ang suffix. That is why cyclopropyl. And naa siya number na na-assign before. Tungod kay you could also have this. Tungod kay pwede man po nga inani ang structure. This is isomer. So this is a carbon number 2. So that this becomes 2-cyclopropyl pentane. Okay. So kung substituent na galing cyclopropane, indicate the position. Pero kung parent chain galing cycloalkane, do not indicate the position of the substituent if there's only one substituent. And what is this number, by the way? This is what you call locant. The locants indicate kung unsa nga ang position sa substituent dito sa parent chain, kung sa carbon number 2 ba, or sa carbon number 3, or sa carbon number 5. That's what you call a locant. Okay, so what if we have complex substituents? Complex branched substituents. Like, for example, okay, so we all know that obviously this is the parent chain, right? This is the parent chain. And this is the substituent here. Kung saan man ipag-name systematically, you can name the substituent, since it is branched and quite complicated a bit. You can treat this as a mini parent. And how do you do that? Well, you must mag-assign kang number na ang direction sa pag-assign mong number is going away from the parent chain. Like for this example, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ang direction sa pag-assign number is going away sa parent chain. You treat this as a mini parent chain. So this 4 carbon atom compound chain would now be a mini parent, so that this should be butyl. Why butyl? Because this is still a substituent as a whole. Pero in this case, gitreat lang ito siya as mini parent. And this substituent is a methyl group, which is located at the number at the second carbon. So when we name this substituent, this becomes 2-methyl butyl. That's how you name systematically the branch substituents. So if you name this compound, first identify the carbons, know the number of carbon atoms and the parent chain. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. When you have 11 carbon atoms, this is on deck. On deck cane, because this is a alkane. And the position or the substituent is located at carbon number 6, and you have this name already. The name of the compound would look like this: 6, then you insert this term in a parenthesis, 2-methyl butyl andecane. So this is the name of this compound, 6-2-methyl butyl andecane. So that is how you name complex substituents. There are sa IUPAC, dati systematic lang yun lang gina-accept, but now they are also accepting common names of substituents. Like, for example, okay, so for example, number 1, we have this. This alkane is propane. And when we do, like, there are actually 2 alkyl groups that are derived from this propane. One is when you have a parent, for example, parent chain. Yeah. This is referred to as a propyl group. It only contains 3 carbon atoms, and there's also an isomer of this propyl group that is derived from this propane. Ang parent sa propyl group, ang parent kay dito siya nakaband sa terminal carbon. So sa gilid ng mga carbon. Pero kung ang parent chain dito siya nakaband sa tunga nga carbon o sa carbon number 2, for example, this is the parent chain. Okay. Example na this becomes isopropyl. Okay, so this substituent here is an isopropyl group. So another one is we have butane. For example, this is butane, of course, and butane actually has 3 substituents na nag-derive sa iyaha. This one is kanay parent chain dire. So there are 4 carbon atoms here. And this is called sec-butyl. Why sec-butyl? Because the parent chain is attached to the secondary carbon atom. Secondary carbon atom because ang carbon na nakakonect sa parent chain kay duha ka buok ay kay nakaband sa duha ka buok carbon atoms, like this carbon atom and this carbon atom. So that is why this carbon atom na nakaband sa parent chain is secondary. Yan may duha ka carbon atom na nakakonect niya. And when you write sec-butyl systematically, this is 1-methyl propyl. Why 1-methyl propyl? Because you number, diba? You number the substituent and the direction is away from the parent chain. So this is 1, 2, 3. And the methyl group here is connected to carbon number 1. That's why 1-methyl propyl. And there are 3 carbon atoms, that's why propyl. So the second one is parent, and you have this compound. This compound, or this substituent here, also has 4 carbon atoms. Okay, try 4 carbon atoms, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you term ang iyang ngalan is isobutyl group. Okay, so an isobutyl group, when you write it systematically, this is 2-methyl propyl. Why? Because you number it like this. The numbering must be going away from the parent chain, so this methyl group is connected to carbon number 2. And the third one is when the parent is connected to the central carbon. Here. So how do you write that? This one is called tert butyl. Tert butyl because this is the parent chain is because ang carbon na nakakonect sa parent chain is a tertiary carbon atom. Why tertiary? Because kaning carbon atom na ay tulo ka carbon atoms na nakakonect niya. That's why tertiary. And when we write this systematically, this is 2,2-dimethyl ethyl. Not 2,2, sorry, 1,1. 1,1-dimethyl ethyl. Okay, why 1,1? Because you have 1, 2. This is ethyl. And you have methyl groups at carbon number 1. Okay, this is for butane. And lastly, what if we have this? We have pentane. The pentane looks like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 carbon atoms. And by the way, si butyl, nasa ikaapat actually. Si butane, by the way, nasa ikaapat, this is butyl group. Butyl. So si pentane, nasa duha. Same siya kay propyl. Of course, this is a pentyl. And ang parent, parent chain. This is pentyl. And another term is in another substituent na isomer aning pentyl is kano siya. When you have a parent here. No. So this is, sorry, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Kung nagali na ning substituent, this is called isoamyl. And when we write isoamyl systematically, first we need the number 1, 2, 3, 4. This is called 3-methyl butyl. And another one is this. When you have the parent here, this and this. Sorry. This substituent is called neopentyl. And neopentyl, when you write it systematically, it becomes 2,2-dimethyl propyl. Why 2,2-dimethyl propyl? Because we number it like this. The two methyl groups are located at carbon number 2. So that's why 2,2-dimethyl propyl ang yung systematic name. Kaning si sec-butyl, isobutyl, tert-butyl, neopentyl, and isoamyl, they are common terms or common names sa mga substituents. And si pentyl is systematic. Okay? And pentyl, by the way, is another name niya is amyl. You can also name this chain as amyl. No, not chain, substituent. Okay, so since we are now aware with the cycloalkanes and how to find a parent chain and substituents as well, we need now to assemble all the things na go through along the discussion. The first rule is Actually, naay mga rules sa IUPAC rules na pretty much intuitive lang siya and dali lang siya sundan. For example, in this case, if you have this compound, ang first, diba, is we need to identify the parent chain here. This is the parent chain of the two. So, kung mag-number ka, when you label the number, carbon atoms, dito ka magsugod sa kung asa dool ang substituent. Meaning to say, kailangan ang substituent na siya yung lowest number possible. Ang locant niya is lowest gid siya as much as possible. So when we number this down, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and not this. This is incorrect. Well, this one is correct. You must see to it that the substituent, when you number the chain, the substituent should always get the lowest number. How about this? When you have this kind of compound, here, and naakay multiple na substituents. So you can number the by the way, the parent chain is this. Now, so here you number it in two ways. One is towards the right, and the number one is towards the left. 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so diri na ka maglibog. Notice niyo na ang substituents there is a left compound. Ang iyang locant is 2, 5, 5. Here, this substituent here is at carbon number 2, and these two substituents are at carbon number 5. Whereas in the right, ang iyahang locants are 3, 3, 6. Kung inani gani, you must choose. You must take into consideration first the first locant, and it's a matter of 2 versus 3. Kung kinsa galit na mas gamay og value, moto siya ang correct. So that this one is the correct one and this one is wrong. When you number this, ang name ng tanning a compound, it would be 2, 5, 5 trimethyl heptane. This is how you're going to choose. So what if you have this situation? You have this kind of situation, and you know, of course, the parent chain, identify first. Here, this is the parent chain, and you number it in two ways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Towards the right and towards the left. And the substituents here are located in these locants 2, 5, 6. And in here, it's 2, 3, 6. Okay, now, which is the correct way? Before, way to find out is compare the first locants. Okay, it's a matter of 2 versus 3. And now when you compare the two, the first locants, same ra sila 2. So ano na yung pag-distinguish? Mo-proceed na dayon, ayhan na dayon ka mo-proceed sa second locants. It's a matter of 5 versus 3 na dayon. Kung ang first locant sa duha ka possible names kay same lang, dito ka mag-compare sa second locant. It's now a matter of 5 versus 3. And of course, whichever has the lowest possible number, mo to ang correct. So in this manner, this is the correct one. In this case, this is the correct locants, and this is incorrect. So the name of this compound would be 2,3,6 trimethyl, because you have 3 methyl groups, heptane. Okay. But what if another scenario, you have this kind of compound? So your parent chain would be this. So here. And you have order of numbering in this manner. 5, 6, 7, 8. So this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So identify the locants 4 and 5. This one is 4 and 5. Oh, what happened? You have substituent at carbon 4 and you have at number 5, you have carbon 4 and 5. Now you cannot compare or differentiate because if compare the first two, they have the same number, and the second, the same number as well. When you encounter this kind of situation, di rin na ka mag-consider sa ginatawag na to nga alphabetization. So many alphabetization. So you must be able to identify or ID kung unsa ang substituent present. So in this case, we have this and this, this and this. This one is ethyl. This one is methyl group. This one is ethyl. This one is methyl group. It's now alphabetization that comes in. Okay? Instead of numbers, comparing numbers, you compare the letters now of the substituents. So that it's a matter of E versus N. E versus N. Sa alphabet, kisa may una ang mag-appear, si E or si M. Ang first na mag-appear is si E. So therefore, ang first priority mo is E. Kailangan siya ang naay lowest possible na locant. So between the two structures, si ethyl naa siya sa carbon 4, whereas sa second one naa siya sa carbon 5. So since si ethyl man ang atong i-prioritize, kasi siya man ang una sa alphabet, when we compare the first letters between ethyl and methyl, therefore, i-consider nato kung asa tong locant na lowest. So that the correct numbering, okay, order of numbering, the chain is this and not this. Because 4 dere, whereas there is 5. Okay? So ang name ani nga compound now would be 4 ethyl, 5, methyl, octane. Octane because it contains 8 carbon atoms. So this is the correct name. And when you do cycloalkanes, ang same ra po na principle na rules ang mo-apply. Like for example, when we have this. We have this compound here. So first, obviously, ang chain parent ani kay ang cycloalkane man. So we now have to number this. This one is clockwise. This one is counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3. But which one is correct? So identify the subsequents. These are the subsequents in green, and write down the locants. This is 1, 1, 3. Well, this one, this is 3, 1, 1, 3, and sorry, 1, 3, 3. Now you compare the locants. The first 2 locants are this. So you cannot distinguish them because same sila value. But how about on the second locants, 1 versus 3? Take note that you should choose always kung usa to'y lowest na value. So since 1 is lower than 3, therefore this is the correct order of numbering. This is correct and this is incorrect. And the name of this compound would then be 1, 1, 3 trimethyl cyclohexane. Easy. That's how simple the nomenclature of alkanes are. So another example, if we have this compound, okay, so for this compound, I'll write another, I'll paste another copy. This is the parent chain. Find the parent chain, yung katong longest. So you may be tempted to write it like this, to identify it like this, or like this. But same lang. This contains 6 carbon atoms. This also contains 6 carbon atoms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But how many substituents are there? 1, 2, 3. This is only 1. Okay. There are 3 substituents, and there's only 1 substituent here. So in this case, this one is incorrect na. This is the incorrect way of finding their parent chain, whereas on the left, this is the correct way, because as per the rules, when you locate the parent chain, dapat nagid siya mas daghan nga substituent. Kanin dyan imong sundon. Mas daghan siya substituent when you locate the parent chain in this manner. Okay. And so, since na naman tayo ni compound, ang rule, we already done this rule, now we are now going to label the number. Okay. 1, 2, no, not that one. What if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? But you can also number it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Sa blue sequence, ang constituents are located at carbon 2, 2, and 3. Okay. Whereas sa orange na sequence, ang substituents na locate siya sa 4, 5, 5. So now we compare the first locants, 2 versus 4. So in this way, we must choose kung usa tong pinakagamay nga value, so that in this case, ang correct na sequence is the blue sequence, not the orange one. So we must erase this one. This is the correct sequence. So that when you write the name, it should be 2, 2, 3. No. By the way, when you write the name, always alphabetize. Alphabetize should always the name. Disregard the locants. It's not all the time na ang pinakauna nyo i-write is katong lowest na locant. No, it should be alphabetization. So this case, this is 3-ethyl. Okay, I will just write it. You may be tempted to write it in this way: 2,2-dimethyl, 3-ethyl, hexane. It's actually incorrect. Why? You should be able to write the name wherein alphabetized ang tanan substituents. So in this case, the correct name should be 3-ethyl, 2,2-dimethyl, hexane. This is the correct one. It's a matter of E versus M, not the D. Okay. So alphabetization, when you speak of alphabetization, the do's, okay, and don'ts. Meaning sa do's, when you see the words iso, cyclo, you consider them in the alphabetization. Like for example, isobutyl versus methyl. It's now a matter of I versus M. Okay, it will be I versus M. And don'ts, like mga substituent na dili ninyo pwede consider, are the following. When you have sec, tert, tri, di, something like that. Yeah, sec, tert, tri, di, tetra, pent, so on and so forth. Like for example, when you have sec, butyl versus propyl, it should be a battle between B and P, not the S and P. So in writing the name, this comes first, the sec-butyl comes first, followed by the propyl. So in here, the isobutyl comes first, followed by the methyl. So that's how you write the name of an alkane with respect to alphabetization. So